recording, please. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, first, we need a motion to approve to conduct the meeting by electronic means.
I'll make that motion. This is Commissioner Venick. I move that the items on the meeting agenda constitute essential business of this board and that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans considering the COVID-19 outbreak, and that any rule that conflicts with Governor's Executive Order 16 permitting electronic meetings be suspended.
Commissioner Dash, second.
All right. Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, as I recall.
Would you like me to do that for you, Commissioner?
Yes.
Chair Richmond?
Thank you very much. Thank you much.
Yes. So I'm just going to go down the list, and when I say your name, please state your assent or dissent. Commissioner Tran?
Assent.
Commissioner Yesbeck?
Assent.
Commissioner Tucker?
Assent.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Assent.
You there, Jeremy?
Assent.
Great. Commissioner Pretorius?
Assent.
Commissioner Robinson?
Assent.
Chair Richmond?
Assent.
Commissioner Abel-Fazli?
Assent.
Commissioner Dash?
Assent.
Commissioner Mann?
Assent.
And Commissioner Venick?
My motion. I approve.
Great. You approve. Did I miss anyone? Great. Chair, it seems that the motion has passed unanimously.
All right. Thank you very much. Next minutes, everybody. I think they were only sent out about 20 minutes ago. But I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look at the minutes yet, but hopefully you have. And
I'll move to approve. I looked at it.
Commissioner Pretorius, was there any discussion, any changes, corrections? Not hearing anything. So I guess once again, I guess we need to do this by roll call. Quality.
Can I point out one change?
Oh yes, sure. Go ahead.
It still says agenda on top and not minutes. I don't know if that's a technicality for that matters, but as the heading.
That would be my fault. Thank you, Commissioner Tran. I will correct that in the final copy.
Okay. We'll have a motion to approve with that one correction.
I so move.
Okay. Did we have a second?
To the version. Yeah.
I'll motion to approve the second.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Rodriguez. All right. I'm going to do the roll call vote. Again, just roll. Commissioner Tran?
Yes.
Yesbeck?
Yes.
Tucker?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Pretorius?
Yes.
Robinson?
Aye.
Richmond?
Yes.
Bosley?
Yes.
Dash,
Yep.
Mann,
Yes.
Vanek.
Yes.
Did I miss anyone? This motion too seems to have passed by unanimous consent, Chair Richmond.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Next, financial update from our executive director.
Yes, we're working on getting like a full up-to-date report. We need some assistance from finance for that. Unfortunately, our finance guy has been out for the holidays, but looking at what they call our bar report as of November 30th, we were well within budget. At that point, we had spent only 37% of our budget, with 63% remaining. And of course, you know, for December, we will have some other we'll have some other revenue coming, or other stuff coming out, like payroll, benefits, and some costs, some small costs associated with our programs. But I will work with finance on getting a more detailed report for you. I did also want to report on the mid-year finance meeting that I had with the folks at finance. And there really isn't a whole lot to report in connection with finance. You know, we are still on some spending freeze, and we're also on a hiring freeze. That's metro-wide. That is pretty unfortunate because I'm really very sad to say that our Director of Policy and Research, Sarah Imran, will be leaving us on January 16th. She's started a PhD program in Cincinnati where she has the temerity to want to join her spouse. So we're really happy for her. But I'm asking both finance and HR for any opportunities we might have to seek an exemption to the hiring freeze. Because quite frankly, one person in my office accounts for a quarter of the staff. So just an open position in our office is puts us at a significant disadvantage to meet the needs of this commission and Nashvillians. So I'll keep you up to date on that.
Okay. Are there any other questions, comments before we move on? No? Okay. Next, old business, or actually, is our guest here? Do we want to move ahead to new business first? Okay. Then, in our special guest, we have Council Member Joyce Stiles, who represents District 32, who is here to talk about license plate reader technology policies. That's what it says here on the agenda. Council Member Stiles, are you here with us?
And can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, Chair, and hello, commissioners. So I want to thank Mel for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to speak with you today. So I have put forth a bill in regards to utilizing license plate readers. I had a very narrow focus in introducing this due to a problem that we're having citywide in terms of drag racing, and realizing that license plate readers could potentially help us, particularly because we would be able to track in real time activities that were going on and would also augment officer safety as well as anyone that's driving, because it creates a knowledge base for the officers that are pulling people over, knowing exactly who they're dealing with, and hopefully preventing some potential incidents. I think I introduced this back in October. We've had some community conversations just to talk about their merits, to also talk about concerns in terms of privacy and surveillance. I know in my bill, because of the concerns that I heard, I have amended my bill for it to be a pilot program for 6 months, so we can use the system and allow for tracking of the audit system to see how you cannot use the system for surveillance and how it does not infringe on privacy, but did not want to roll out an ordinance that would take over the entire city without being able to prove that it can do what we're saying that it does, and also not infringe upon people's concerns. So I know I've had Mel to speak at one of my meetings. I attended a public safety meeting where I know Davey was present. And so hello, Davey, because I haven't seen you in a very long time. So I wanted to come today and find out if you have any concerns, what your concerns are. Davey, I know you're going to give me some information that I will be able to, that I will be able to utilize for the future. So it's important to me not to come up with sweeping legislation without taking everyone into account from all sides. I think what makes sense, regardless of where we end up with license plate readers, because I know that there's additional legislation coming as well that people are proposing. Everyone needs to be at the table and all voices need to be heard so we can try and come up with the best policy possible. So I will turn it over and ask any of you to share your thoughts with me.
Well, Richard, you were called out by name, so why don't we start with you?
You're on mute, David.
Okay. How are you, Councilwoman Joyce Stiles? My first problem is we went through this in 2017, and there was much debate around this issue of license plate readers. The council actually passed the ordinance where it is illegal to have them in Davidson County. So that's my first thing, is we've already been through this, and to come back around to it in such a way that it didn't get a lot of public dissemination. We kind of found out about it by people letting individuals know. So first thing is we've already dealt with this. Two would be the city's priorities. If this is a public safety issue, we've got other public safety issues that are much more important to me than to allow MMPD to have greater surveillance. The city wanted greater surveillance of police, which as of today, best I can ascertain, there's only been 20% of the body cameras even deployed. And so here is the police department back asking for greater surveillance on us. Thirdly, again, well, also inside of this whole idea of priorities, we just had a 34% tax increase, and now we want to spend monies to purchase these license plate readers. I think all of us here or who are from Nashville know the roads that provide drag racing opportunities, and we know where they are. So I think to spend monies just for LPRs to say deal with the drag racing thing, it doesn't do anything if I steal someone's tag and put that tag on my car, which people do. So I don't know. I just think, as I'm hopeful that the city would be thinking ways in which to reimagine public safety. This is a take for me right out of the old school book that has created the disparities which many communities already deal with in Nashville right now. Yes, I understand drag racing is a problem, but it's always been a problem. And to open up this Pandora's box when I thought the city had already spoken, I don't know, it's just not wise to me. So I could go on and on, but I want to give way to my other commissioners because there are other issues that are in play there. This is also a privatization issue for me too. I have a problem when we contract with private companies to provide what is a public service requirement. This to me is in line with the privatization of jails, the privatization of food in jails, the privatization of healthcare. And again, now we want to privatize portions of law enforcement to do gathering on behalf. Now, the Tennessee state legislature passed several laws limiting in the ways in which you could even use them. So I don't know whether or not y'all have checked what you're trying to do against the 3 or 4 laws that the state passed, which would indicate that they're not real big on LPRs either. All right, I'll pull over to the curb.
I knew you would have something for me, Dave. Do it.
Can I chime in, or do you want to go ahead and answer, Councilwoman?
If I could, because I do have some responses, and then I'll take you next. So, Davey, in terms of what you mentioned in 2017, and that would be Dave Rosenberg's bill, which was re-amended at the end of November to remove that particular part of the bill of removing license plate readers. And I will say the city at that time, there are some that, you know, were not fully aware of what the bill meant. Let's just put it that way. And so hence this conversation being able to come up again. It really was very kind of serendipitous that this happened the way that it did. I introduced my bill on the same agenda that his bill was also coming up for amendment. And I think that's how the conversation was re-engaged. And while I did put forth the LPRs to address drag racing, my amendment also includes the use of the hot list. So that speaks to your point about a stolen plate. So in conjunction with the speeding, my bill would also run a plate to see if that plate was stolen or if that vehicle was stolen. And the privatization, that's data being captured. That's also something that I put in my amendment so that data would only belong to the city and no one else could use it. It wouldn't be sold at any time. It wouldn't belong to anyone that provided the software and other systems for us to use, because I know that that is a concern in terms of information. And I do respect where you're coming from and your concerns in terms of public safety. Drag racing can seem like it's not a very big deal, but we have had some fatalities. We've had a lot of destruction as a result of that activity. And I think at the end of the day, because we are short officers, we're trying to come up with ways that we can help them. We don't have more officers. And I know that there's a conversation in terms of how do we organize public safety? How do we readdress and redistribute funds and how we're addressing public safety, but we still have needs. And so in the meantime, we do need to get those needs met. The license plate readers could help us with that. Body cameras, I know we had a conversation about that when we voted for that to take place last budget. Initially, that wasn't supposed to be a part of the budget. So it is in process, and I would need to check, because I can say I do not have the exact number, but I know that body cameras were a part of last year's budget and were supposed to go into play for this year. So I can get back to you, Davey, and let you know exactly where we are with that.
I appreciate that, but I verified it through the police department that it is roughly 20%. And that's 20% in the last 3 years or so. That, I mean, I think they need to do their part. public safety is a two-way street, not a one-way street.
Okay. I'm going to come back to you on that one. I'm going to ask that someone else was speaking, and I'm so sorry. If you can tell me your name.
Yes. Hi, I'm glad you're here. It's great to meet you, Councilwoman. My name is Mary Mabel Fazley. I've been thinking about this quite a bit as a friend of mine, Jamel Campbell-Gooch, called me about this a couple weeks ago after the COB meeting on it. And I'm glad you came to our meeting today. I appreciate that. My fellow Commissioner Davey covered the bases on this, but I think what I've read about and understood about how to do this right, if it's a sort of forced thing, is accountability and transparency. So, I looked at numbers in Oakland and other places, and it looks like criminals aren't really picked up very much through this process. But who are typically low-income Black citizens and members of the community that are already being overly harassed. And this could end up, putting them in another situation with bail and fees and fines and jail time and all that stuff that continues that spiraling into poverty and other things. So that's my concern of how much are we going to be increasing things that we need, like David's saying, we're trying to decrease, while like almost using a hammer to just, take care of something really tiny. Not that drag racing is tiny, but it's like, this is a solution that covers the whole city and does a lot of things regarding a lot of people, but we've got one little problem that we're trying to address with it. And I'm sure you took that into consideration. So I'd like to hear from you, what are the alternative methods by addressing this drag racing problem that don't involve license readers? Because, it's going to take a lot to look at that data and say, are we, disproportionately pulling over the very people we're starting to try to protect in our society? And is it causing more harm to those people, similar to the harm that they're already facing through fines and fees and all kinds of stuff? If I'm driving my cousin's car and the car is stolen, and suddenly I'm in trouble for all this stuff and I didn't know, it's all these things that are happening. And I don't know if that's your intent or anyone's intent, to cause more misery for populations of our community. So that's what's really got me super, super concerned. Privacy is privacy. Where are the servers? Why is this company giving this to us for free? That's the first red flag. I'm like, dear God, I'll never trust a company that's giving me anything for free. Why? They did that for Cobb County in Atlanta, and they're touting great success, right? They tout immense crime dropping, but even the police officers don't even know if that's relative. And the company is the same company, I think Velocity or whatever. I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, so I'm really suspicious of the free stuff. And okay, so that's my second question. The third one is, what looks good to you at the end of this 6 months? So like if drag racing goes down, or I don't know, tell me what you're looking to see change. And if pulling over more Black and brown folks and causing them more misery and more, all the things that happen from those pullovers that do not decrease crime and do not make communities safer, if that goes up and drag racing goes a little bit down, have we won? Do you know what I mean? Have you achieved your goal? So I'd like you to talk about that complexity a little bit. So those are the three things. Not easy, so I appreciate it.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you for all of your questions. I'm going to hit them in order. So let's go back to the top. So in terms of policy, so I touched on this a little bit. And so I amended my bill to include language about privacy, who has access to the data, who can access it, if a license plate does ping, who can go into the system to look it up to see where this car may have been stolen from, etc. In essence, the way any of these systems work is the policy gets set, and that's how the system is wired. So if we say, for example, some people are using license plate readers to track expired tags or uninsured motorists. So we would make sure that we're not using it for that. And it's very clear what we're using it for. So for my bill, it's very specific. It is just for the drag racing, but also to check and see if a car or a plate is stolen. But LPRs can have a wide variety of uses. The key is that the policy that's in place specifies exactly what it can be used for and what it can't. So it kind of ties in a little bit with one of your other questions. The donation from the organization, a lot of cities have LPRs. We don't. Vigilant, which is the name of the company that you were trying to think of, they are pretty much number one for a lot of police departments around the country. The other company that I was looking at was Recor. So when I talked about doing a pilot program, my desire was that we could compare the two for accuracy and efficacy, and also the audit trails. So you can't just say, I like my next door neighbor, you're an officer, and I want to track and see what Susie's doing, and I'm just going to go to work and put her license plate in there. The system is set up to flag if you're entering information that doesn't have an associated case number. It wants to know a reason why you're doing it. So that's the purpose of the audit trails, and part of why I want to do a pilot, so we can show how this can't be used to surveil and how it can't be used to infringe on people's privacy. The way that my bill is set up, the way that the system would be set up, these trailers that would be placed in a variety of places and can be moved around, it would only trigger if someone was going 70 miles per hour or over. And so again, to my point about the policy, you can set these cameras up how you want them to track information. They don't have to be collecting every single car that goes by. So with my bill, they wouldn't be. Only if you are reckless driving would it kick in, and then once it kicks in to track the speed, it would also kick in to run and see if a plate or a vehicle was stolen. My results that I'd be looking for at the end of the 6 months, in my bill, I put at 5 months, we can start looking at the data to see, are we seeing a decrease in the behaviors in the particular areas that are having the increase of car shows and drag racing in public streets and all of that. If there's a decrease, that's what I'm looking for. In terms of pulling people over randomly, this isn't set up for that. And I think what we have to do, and I think that's what I'm trying to do for sure, is look at how it's failed in other cities. How there have been people that have been picked up unnecessarily. How do we improve upon that here? For me, I don't think that's the reason for us not to do it. That is a reason for us to do it right. Let us be a city that can get this right. And oftentimes I feel things have been done in the city reactively instead of proactively. So I want to engage everyone to get perspective so I can modify the bill as much as possible so that we can get these answers. At the end of 6 months, it seemed like nothing had changed. Then all we've lost is 6 months, and we don't have to have license plate readers. If we're talking, if it works, maybe there's an opportunity for us to discuss further what a policy could look like where we roll it out and use it for a silver alert or an amber alert, in addition to the uses just for narrow. Does that answer your question? Hopefully a little bit. And if not,
yeah, definitely a little bit. I think something that I would want in there is this review of this demographic data to see who's being pulled over and what has happened to them as a result of this. Like, what has happened to that population? I've noticed that in some other cities' cases, and just to make sure we're not disproportionately affecting populations that are already, got a bunch stacked up against them. I think putting that in there, and there's stuff, there's policy out there on this, so that you're just looking at the numbers and make like, okay, we put, what percentage of people, all that, there's a bunch of numbers to look at. What percentage of people actually were criminals? What percentage of people, I mean, in your case, it seems like literally technically triggers only at 70 miles per hour.
Correct.
So police
Yes.
officers can't just at their own, which
Cannot.
which is better than other places where police officers were using it all over the place on their, because
with the LPRs, I mean, literally you can use it for what you want. And if you have not set a policy of what you cannot use it for, you can utilize it inappropriately.
apparently some cities set policy, but it didn't get deployed. So that's another thing to keep an eye on. They set policy, but it never made it to the street. It never made it to the.
One of the other things that I put in the amendment is 2 people from council being able to track this audit system to see how it's working, but also someone from the COB to be able to see how the audit is working. Because if this is going to disproportionately affect certain people, we need to see that. And people need to be able to actively go in and see, what can you see when someone is logged in? For example, the Belmead Police Department, there are only 4 people there that have access to the system. That's 4 dispatchers, actually 5, 4 dispatchers and 1 detective. They are actually able to go into the NCIC system. If a plate pings saying that it's been stolen from someplace, they can go in, see who the person is, whose car it previously belonged to, and send out that information to the officers. Those individuals, when they're logged in, you can see their name, you can see every single action that they do, and a timestamp. If they were to try and enter information without being associated with the case number, it flags. And it'll say, this is an inappropriate activity, and there's going to be follow-up. And in fact, there was an officer that was fired recently for misuse of a system. So I think we are learning from people's previous mistakes, other cities' mistakes, and the goal here is to have sound policy. The reason why my bill is narrow is so we can try this out. Let's try it out narrow, because I think it's a bad idea for me to come and say, hey guys, I want this to be for the entire city. I know you have a bunch of problems with it, but let's go ahead and roll it out for everything and then turn around and see if it worked. I think that's a bit of a nightmare. And I think there needs to be more, if we talk about a broad use of LPRs, we need to have more community input in exactly what that would look like. So a 6-month pilot won't hurt us. I think it will help us get an understanding of how we can use this system.
This is Erwin Venick. Can you hear me? I don't have a picture.
You do or you don't?
I do not have a picture. I am a phantom voice coming out of the universe. But following up on those questions, I was curious to know whether there has been any data or research done in other jurisdictions where this technology has been used that addresses the question of whether, as was suggested earlier, that we have a technology that will have an impact upon communities of color, such as driving while black demonstrating.
Okay. As it pertains, I have not looked into that, particularly because as it pertains to this issue and where this behavior is occurring, it's everywhere. So it's not going to just be going into minority communities. These trailers would be going everywhere because it's happening everywhere. And so for me, that's important because I know that there's a concern that, oh, we're going to put more cameras just in our black and brown communities and leave the other areas without any trailers. That's not the case. Again, my goal is to address the criminal behavior, certainly to make sure that we're equitable in how we're tracking that activity period. And I don't care if you're Barney the Purple Dinosaur. If you're engaging in the activity, I want to capture that.
So what are the areas where this behavior, as you describe it, is rampant?
So it's everywhere. We've got Briley Parkway, Bell Road, Old Hickory Boulevard, Jefferson Road. There are some areas as well on the west side in Bellevue. It really is pervasive. It happens a lot more in a few, like my area, we have a lot of it.
Yeah.
And in Southeast. I'm out by the Global Mall. But again, in total, when in speaking with the two companies, I asked if we could have maybe 10 of these trailers that we can move around for 6 months and put them everywhere where we can possibly track what's happening. Some of this is happening on back roads, some of it's happening on the main roads, but it is all over.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry I didn't get to see your face, but very nice to meet
Well, I
you.
know, I'm sorry too.
I had a question. This is Janice Rodriguez. Can you hear me?
I can, and I can now
Okay.
see you.
Okay, great.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah, so with specifically with street racing, how is this going to be, how is this going to diminish the street racing? I mean, so you've got the person that's activated going over 70 miles an hour. That could be my mom going down the highway, but so is there a follow-up? What do you do? I mean, are they on, how is this actually going to affect, I mean, your stated objective, how does this
Okay.
come about?
So the way the system works, if a car is going 70, it's going down the street, it goes by the trailer, it would send a signal within a matter of seconds to the dispatcher. Dispatch would say, okay, here's a car, it's out of compliance, it's reckless driving. That then gets sent to all the officers. And any officers that are in that area would be able to respond because they would get the license plate and they'd know the make and the model of the car. So it's in real time.
Okay.
At the same time, when that is triggered for the speed, it will also initiate the hot list. So it will take that license plate and run it through the system to see, is this plate or vehicle stolen? So should an officer respond, they're going to get them on the reckless driving, but also potentially if the car is stolen as well. And they also they know what they're dealing with in approaching the vehicle. And that's what I was speaking to earlier. This is where the safety component, the driver of the car as well as the officer, they know who they're going after and they're going to approach that differently than just a random stop.
And will it be visible to anybody driving through the area that, yes, you're under surveillance here, or will these be hidden?
Yes. No, not at all. These are trailers that are a few feet tall. They're as I said, they're mobile, so they are on wheeled bases. We can put them on a medium. We can put them on the side of the road. They actually have cameras on both sides, so they can capture 4 lanes of traffic on each side. Not hiding at all. That's not the goal. Certainly, the hope is having these placed out and being visible, that we start to see a decrease in the drag racing and some of the property destruction that's taking place in addition to just flying down the highway.
Will there be any follow-up if someone is pinged, but the officer's not able to respond in real time? I mean, will there be follow-up later? Will they? So
the way that it would work with the hot list, if it pings, what happens is in the system, whoever's monitoring the system, it'll let you know when a car has gone by a particular trailer. And then when that information is disseminated to the officers, it can be shared. Well, I'm not close by. Who is close by? Let's keep an eye out. Here's this vehicle, because they know that it's stolen. So necessarily they're not going to be able to go later. But for example, there was a car theft ring that came through Nashville a couple of months ago. They came through, they pinged on the cameras. The officers saw that they had come through, but they weren't able to catch them, but they were able to communicate with the originating police department where the cars had been stolen from, that particular area. And those individuals were caught, I believe, in DC because the system was talking and they ultimately caught them in another state.
So it's not like a red light reader where once you're if you're caught going, through a red light, you get a ticket, a citation sent to your home when they find you,
No,
so
no.
And have to be caught in the act.
No, not at all. And that causes its own problem because a lot of people are confusing the two, the red light camera and these are different. Red light cameras are revenue generators, and that's not the goal of of these LPRs.
So it's at the, from what I understand about the technology though, once you've been captured in the system, they can then trace you around from different readers. So if I'm going 70 on Briley Parkway and then I get on Old Hickory Boulevard and I'm still, speeding and hit another one, I can be tracked in that sense with the
you would have, well, because you would have initiated the system to begin with by going 70. If you did go by another trailer, it could potentially say, oh,
and that kind of
before before.
I guess my concern is that once I'm in the system, I've been tagged if I've got the lead foot and I'm found somewhere else. I mean, are my movements being tracked around the city when I go through these yet again because of one offense or something like that? Do I get it just seems to be a little bit concerning of being accused of a crime or being followed on illegal search and seizure, that kind of thing. I'm being followed and not without just cause or being accused of a crime.
No, it would again, it would only kick in if you were already out of compliance. So if you're already breaking the law and then you go by another camera and you've slowed down, same day, you might be there because you were out of compliance that one time and they're going to want to reach you because of that particular activity. But that doesn't mean they're going to be looking for you every single day. No. And in fact, if you don't initiate it, we're not holding on to any data. And if we did capture data, I have it in the bill that non-offender data would be only hold for 30 days and then it gets deleted, never touched at all. If it's something that's being prosecuted, the state law says up to 90 days. In my bill, I put 60.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. That helps a lot. Appreciate it.
Councilperson Stiles.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Ben Tran. And can you see me?
Yes. Hi.
I'll make a confession first. I like speed. I like motorcycles, and I like fast things. The other, despite my like for speed, I'm a skeptic of surveillance technology. So I wanted to ask you a couple of things about the culture of drag racing, which is to say, it's a spectacle. And if you know where the trailers should go, why can't
you broke up again?
If you know where the drag racing is happening? Drag racing is a spectacle. I know this because I work in areas of the country where motorcycle racing is a serious problem. It's a serious problem all around the world. It's a spectacle. It's what young people do, mostly men, a few women here and there. But it's a spectacle, and they love to see each other. They record it. The generation that does drag racing, it's not like they're doing it in the dark of night and then they go away, and then you capture this somewhere. So my question to you is, I mean, the use of trailers, I thought it was going to be cameras put up everywhere. So my question is, if you know what you're going to be at and going to do it late at night, and they're loud and they gather and they take pictures and they do recordings. And they're smart. If you put a trailer out, they're just going to migrate somewhere else. I mean, when I see trailers in a parking lot, I see it, and I'm like, that's creepy, right? So my question to you is, I mean, this gets back to Miriam's question, is that this captures the problem at the end of the process of youth being reckless. It doesn't get at the root problem of this is so-called criminal activity. So my question to you is, if you know, first of all, has this been addressed by addressing these groups? There's only, trust me, in the United States and in Nashville in particular, drag racing in proportion, I guarantee you, is smaller than other parts of the world. But have we identified these groups? So that is one question. That piggybacks on Miriam's question, which is, has this been addressed other end to prevent this drag racing events from happening? Other cities have done this in multiple ways. I'd love to hear what you've consulted in terms of urban planning in other cities around the world. Nashville is a small city this way. Drag racing, as I understand it, is not as rampant as other cities. But I'd like to know if you've compared this with other urban developments and solutions throughout the world, or any other city in America for that matter. The second is, is that the previous question just asked, it seems to me that to be on a hot list is to be convicted of something already without having a fair trial or any kind of way to defend yourself. Let's say if I have a heavy foot one night, I'm driving, I'm rushing to get my kid in the hospital for some reason, and I go through one of these trailers. I'm on hot list for 30 to 60 days. That is guilty until proven innocent. And I think that's unfair for everybody involved, not just the so-called drag racers, or the reckless driving. And when I look at your bill, I'm really curious to know why it's not only drag racing that you're after, but also reckless driving. That's also included in the language of the bill. And drag racing is only subsumed within it. If drag racing is the main problem we're getting at, then why this nebulous term of reckless driving, which can net many people for many different reasons that we may not know why. And my three and a half questions now, third and a half question is, who determines this hot list, right? When the policemen are acting upon it, are they generating this information that you're guilty until proven innocent? Are they getting the hot list from other areas? Because this is how the system works. Who's on the hot list? Where are they getting from? Are they getting it from other hot lists in Shelby County, in Williamson County, in Belle Meade? Is that the hot list that we're all on now? And I ask this question because these LPRs have been used against Muslims in England, in Canada, and in New York. It has targeted journalists. All these hot lists are generated and they're shared. And what I'm really concerned about in your bill is that if the MNPD shares this hot list with anybody else, this list that I think is guilty until proven innocent, they have 15 days to post it on their website. In 15 days, lots could happen to a family. The LPR has been, these hot lists have been used by police departments with ICE. So in 15 days, lots could happen to a family of Hispanic descent, of all kinds of situations that may be there. So I'm very perturbed by this notification of 15 days thereafter, because lots can happen in that time and the attainment of this data. And then my last question is, technology is not neutral. This doesn't fix our system, which I think everyone has alluded to as a biased police system and surveillance system. I don't think it fixes the solution. I would love for it to fix the problem. But usually technology spins out of control and has unintentional consequences. I agree with you that policy is important, but hacking happens. Information really isn't scrubbed. For-profit companies keep that data. They might sell that data. They might give that data to the federal government, which has happened with our AT&T company here in Nashville. So there are unintentional consequences that I would like to hear how you would address those unintentional consequences, such as hacking and sharing with data surreptitiously with, let's say, for example. Thank you.
Ben, that was a treasure trove of questions. So I'm going to try to respond to them. If I forget one, I'm going to come back to you and ask you to refresh my memory. Okay. So I'm going to jump around a bit. Your concern about data and hacking. I have language. I actually amended it again for tomorrow's meeting in regards to data not being able to be sold, the data specifically belonging to MNPD and MNPD alone. Regardless of who supplies the system, no one else would have access to it. The hot list creation. Who creates the list? So this is generally if the car's been stolen. It gets input into the system wherever that city or town is where the car was stolen. It goes into the system as a stolen plate or a stolen vehicle. So when a vehicle comes through another city or town and goes through a trailer, it pings saying, this is the car that was stolen. This is the plate that was stolen. So that's how the hot list is created. Let's see. And I think Miriam asked the question in terms of how this can be used to track people. This system would not be used for tracking individuals. This is not about sharing data with ICE. That's information. That's actually language that's in the bill already. That this is only data that will be shared with another police department if we're talking about capturing a vehicle that came from another city. Otherwise, it is staying all here in-house with MNPD. Can you restate your question for me in regards to the data that's being captured for the 30 days? And you were saying once it's captured and then it stays in the system for 30 days.
Right. So initially, you had said that if you go by quickly, let's say 70 miles an hour, over this, 70 miles per hour and get captured, right? Previously, you'd mentioned that even if the car wasn't stolen, would it still be captured? Is my question.
If it is going at the 70 miles per hour, yes. And the going 70 miles per hour or over does fall under the umbrella of reckless driving, which is why it's in the bill. So
I again, typically reckless driving, if you're cited for it, right? There could be emergency situations. There could be all kinds of issues that I'm concerned about. But so that still remains fuzzy for me. The other question that I had with the 30 days is, let's say MNPD, Bellmead Police Department, shares this. Does then MNPD have control over that list that Bellmead gets? Do they say, like, you can borrow it for 30 days, I get it back? And we know that electronically that's very difficult. And that's what I mean when things spin out of control. You're on a hot list until proven innocent. That's my primary concern. So
the data is not to be shared. That's what the language is saying. It is only shared with another police department, only as it pertains to a license plate or vehicle being stolen. So the concept that something happens and, oh, we'll give you our list just because, that would be against the policy. And in and of itself would create an issue. Particularly, there are so many conversations taking place right now about these license plate readers and the potential for them to be introduced into our city. I don't think that we have room to not come up with a policy that is very clear. If we say that it can't be used, it can't be used. And if there's a reason that you're asking for it, then in that case, you're talking about, needing a warrant for that.
So I guess my only question, we'll move on to other commissioners, but the question is, if like the Bellmead Police Department uses it, they can use it for any reason they want, correct? The hot list.
They have a set policy. It's not because they are their own little mini city. Right. They are using their LPRs for the stolen car purposes as well as the silver alerts and the amber alerts. I know that they're not using it for expired tags or for uninsured motorists or which are, some people are using the cameras for that as well. When I spoke with Detective Sexton, those are the only uses they are implemented for. Silver, amber, and stolen vehicles. But
Metro Council's purview does not stretch into how Bellmead would use that hot list or any other, like Williamson County, Shelby County.
Are you asking still about sharing our information with someone else?
What I'm afraid of is the copy and pasting and the sharing of data that is digital. It spreads. We all know this. We all hit email accidentally, and it would be used for other purposes other than reckless driving and drag racing by other jurisdictions, legal jurisdictions, is what I'm afraid of.
So give me a second while I'm taking notes on this, because that is a question that has not been asked. And I'm not really sure if we're tracking someone for a stolen vehicle, what other information they would be taking.
Right, or how would that data be used in other counties beyond our policies?
So if we're tracking, like I said, with the carjacking syndicate that rolled through, they came through from another city, they rolled through our system. The communication that was had with that previous department was just to tell them, hey, this car that came out of your city was here. That's all the information that they gave. I don't believe that they're asking for anything else or that they would give more than that, because it also puts them under liability. Miriam, I see your mouth open. Do you want to say something, dear?
Well,
Go ahead.
I think what Commissioner Tran is talking about is that if we don't control the use of that data, maybe it says, oh yeah, it's just for this or that, but technically it's out there in the world. There's a kid that that hacked the system in Oakland and got like 10,000 pieces of data about people, everybody, and what their movements were throughout Oakland. So essentially it's like, yeah, maybe it's under our control with our policy here in Nashville, but once it leaves and go into Belmead, someone can say brown Iranian girl driving through Belmead, whatever they want to do and pull me over.
No facial recognition. I think that's important for me to state too. So again, to the surveillance aspect of it, this software takes pictures of license plates, vehicles only. There are no faces. You don't get names. You don't get personal information, even when it pops up in the system. In order to get that information, that has to be one of the designated individuals that's able to go into NCIC to get that information in the first place. Otherwise, any officer that's getting a notification about a car that's been stolen, that's all they're getting. Blue Honda Civic and the license plate. That's it. They don't know who's driving it or where it came from. And I think it's a danger of conflating.
Yeah, I was just thinking like they see me driving around and then they check out my license plate essentially. And then if I pop up because I was in Nashville.
They can't. Okay. That's what I'm saying. You cannot decide, I think Miriam's cute. I want to know more about her. Let me take her license plate and let me enter it into the system so I can see where she lives and that's going to flag as an unauthorized use because there's no case number to go along with you. The way the system is set up, it is affiliating a license plate with a case number that is already in existence.
Hey Joy, how are you? It's Pratik.
Hi.
Hi. I am. I just want to say I kind of echo some of the concerns. I mean, I know that I have not looked at the bill deeply, I'll be the first to say. But I think like just with the work that I've done and stuff, ICE like always finds a way to get data somehow, some way. And so I think there's a couple of things that I was wondering is if you've considered maybe building in some penalties of if the people if they do give data away, maybe we could work something in there. Also, I was very surprised by 70 miles an hour. And I've had those cars zoom by me. I just cannot see any drag racer winning any of their races at 70. And so I was wondering if we might even want to think about considering cranking it up to 80 or even 85. Because I mean, when I see them zoom past me, it's always like 100 or something like that. So, I mean, that also might help, pull out some of the riffraff or noise or whatever. So maybe think about increasing the speed might be another thing. But I mean, I think the data is just a big red flag. I think Ben touched on every point that I'm sort of thinking of too. But I just wanted to name those two points as well. Maybe working some penalties in for if someone uses the data wrong, and really hammering down on that if this does go. If we decide to do that, and then maybe cranking up the speed a little bit. I understand 70 is the number for reckless, but I can't see a drag racer winning their races at 72 miles an hour just based off of what I've seen. So just some ideas to throw in there.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Commissioner Pretorius, and I have a question. I live actually on a very busy street where at least once a week you can hear people race down our street and going too fast, which it's nothing that I think that just regular traffic regulation or calming measures could help. But listening to all of this I'm wondering is, since I'm the person living on the busy street, how will I feel having my street filled with cameras and every time I walk out, or you drive down the street or my teenagers come home, friends go and visit, their license plates might be on camera. Will a neighborhood have a say in how you decide where you put these cameras. Like, I think there's some neighborhoods who would absolutely welcome it, and then there would be others who would be against it. So would we as residents of the city of Nashville have a say, or be able to at least say, I think it's a good idea to put it on my street, or I absolutely don't want it on my street? So do we have a say in it or not?
Well, let me address one of the points that you made in the beginning. The cameras would not be collecting data nonstop. Again, they would only be initiated if someone was going by at 70 miles per hour. So if your friends are coming and going and they're not going over 70, it's not collecting any of their data at all. In terms of neighborhoods, it's an interesting question, because we had some community groups that were concerned because they really want license plate readers in their community. As a former HOA president, we had a flock system, and it was pointed into our community. My bill specifies public right-of-way, so that we're not looking into residential neighborhoods. If your neighborhood wants a camera, then that's a conversation to have just within your neighborhood or your subdivision, and you all can elect to do that and reach out to a private company that can erect cameras and track who's coming and going. That's a group decision. This is specifically for public use.
So we will have it. It's just going to show up one day and be there, and we will have no say in it.
If it wouldn't be in a neighborhood. It's going to be, if you're talking about, are you living on a road, like directly on a Dickerson Road or an Oldsville Road, that kind of situation. If it was there, it wouldn't be not necessarily facing your house. It's really just tracking the lanes of traffic. It's not picking up anything, any buildings outside of the street itself. So it wouldn't be encroaching.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Nice to meet you.
Marissa Richmond here. I do have just one additional concern, that in addition to everything else dealing with driving while black or ICE harassment, the LGBT community historically has been harassed by people who track license plates. And in fact, you mentioned with Bell Mead, you said only 5 people had access, and one bill had to get fired. That's 20% of those who had access to the information. And just a little over a year ago, to deal with MNPD officers who were cyber harassing people from the community, the LGBT community, specifically a trans woman. And we're, certainly, even though you said this would not be used for to violate people's privacy, there have been recent incidents of people in MNPD who have harassed members of the LGBTQ community. And one of the concerns that I would have, again, would be violation of people's privacy. If they saw somebody coming out of a bar, even though you said it wouldn't be triggered until they reach 70 miles an hour, they might see something on one of those videos, and they could use that information. And I'm really concerned about the violation of privacy, in addition to those, again, who would already be harassed, maybe by a racist cop or a xenophobic cop. The fact is, we know that there are homophobic cops as well. And I have real concerns about the violation of civil rights and civil liberties on that.
Okay, thank you very much, Marissa. Again, the system is not set up to be used for surveillance. And I really would like, I think, for anyone that would be interested, I'd love to do a bit of a field trip out to Mount Juliet. They have a huge demonstration of the system and how it works, what the officers see, the information that comes in, how quickly it gets sent out, what happens if you try and put information in and it's not affiliated with a case. You can see how that works. And if anyone's interested, please let me know. I would love to show this system. And I think all of your concerns are valid, and because other cities have failed to protect people, it leaves room for significant doubt as to how this system can function in the way that it's intended to function. And I think the goal is always for us to improve upon the mistakes of others. So you all have asked a lot of fantastic questions, some of which I think is there in the bill, some in the amendment that I am adding in terms of the data that can't be used, as well as auditing. Who gets to see this? Who has access? Who can go in? Let's take this time, 6 months, at 5 months, we take a look at the data, see if we've seen a decrease in the behavior. If something else, Marissa, was captured on those cameras, it couldn't be used without the police making it clear that they were wanting to use this data for something other than the drag racing. And so that would be very, very clear. And I've had that conversation. This is why I have made this so narrow, so that it leaves room to check and see if at a narrow viewpoint, if we can see what's working, we can fix it. If we talk about expanding it so we can cover these. Mel, are you about to say something? I see you.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you so much for giving the commission so much time this evening. But I do just have one question regarding the cost of the cameras.
Yes.
I know you said that they were free, but can you talk a little bit about the ongoing cost past the point of your 6 month window of the pilot?
So thank you for asking me that. And I think Miriam had touched on it, and forgive me that I had not gone into a deeper explanation. So the two companies, Vigilant being one of them, Recore being the other, specifically those two because they can do what my bill needs, which is track speed and also be able to track the hot list. Many of the other LPR systems are fixed camera systems that are either placed on poles or attached to traffic lights and or telephone poles. So I was looking for companies to see what would this look like. You know, should this pass? How do we roll this out? So Vigilant, because they would like to supply the LPRs, that is the reason why they are willing to do the 6 months. Recore, there is a nonprofit called Safer Nashville that wants to help our police department. They are covering the cost for those cameras. So Metro has to expend no funds. So in the 6 months, we'll have what the cost of these cameras would be to figure out how much they would cost. How many cameras do we want? For example, Mount Juliet has 39 cameras, and it's geo-fenced around all of the borders, and in a few places within the heart of Mount Juliet. So they're seeing if you're coming and going, captured at all times. So their cost for their 39 cameras, I think it was $100,000. The cameras all depend on what you want them to do. The more you want them to do, the more expensive they are. So again, it comes back to the policy. What is it that we want these cameras to do? How many are we saying that we need? Do we want to do a geofencing situation? Do we want them to be geofenced as well as in specific spots downtown and in surrounding areas? So looking at the cost at 5 months, we get to determine, based on the data, does this make sense? Have we seen a decrease in stolen cars? Are we seeing a decrease in not just drag racing, but also just the reckless driving? It's not just you have two cars going down the street. Sometimes it really is that one car that's going 100 down the street on their way to whatever the car show is. And that's a problem when they jump a curb and destroy property, or there's a fatality. So as it pertains to figuring that out, all of that would take place at the 5 month mark. And if it worked, then we could potentially extend it by resolution if it seemed like it was working in reviewing that data, or if it seemed like this is working really well, we'd like to use the cameras for other things. Then we have an opportunity to say, well, let's talk about what would that policy look like? What would it include? What would we definitively say it cannot be used for? And I'm so sorry, I can't remember who suggested. It was Practice in terms of.
I already refilled my prescription.
Okay, sign up.
Was that for me or was something else?
Erwin, will you mute your phone, please?
So yes, so it seems like it's free. It's not really so much of it being free. We don't have to agree to taking on either company. I think this is a matter of so many other cities have LPRs. I drove home to Pennsylvania for Christmas, and the state of Virginia, it has always been known for being on top of revenue generating with their highway patrol. But I noticed there were none when I drove through this time, and I just keep waiting, hoping and praying that there's not a letter coming to me in my mailbox with a picture of me flying through the state of Virginia, because there was nothing but LPRs for the entire state, on 100-foot poles and signs saying, hey, we're tracking traffic, through LPRs. So it's all about our policy. What are we using it for? What do we not want to use it for? And being really clear about that. And I think these companies really want to get in. There are a lot of people watching this conversation right now. I was very surprised at how many people have reached out to me to say, oh, you guys are talking about LPRs now. Oh, okay. Well, we're kind of interested, but we're waiting to see how things go. And the state is also, I think the state is trying to figure some things out for themselves in terms of LPRs. And I don't have the specifics. I got whisperings that the state was also watching this for similar reasons. Does that answer your question, Mel?
I see. Well, actually, Commissioner Yesbeck has his hand up, so I think he's been waiting.
I'll try to be quick, and I'm not that well versed on this topic, although I am from Pennsylvania also, so we have that in common. Is there an opportunity? We've heard a lot of people talk about the police disproportionately targeting certain groups and driving while black. Is there an opportunity to use the LPR technology to essentially say you can only, like, as a restriction on policing, other than if you're violating certain predefined criteria that's picked up by the LPRs, that would maybe help rather than exacerbate the problem that Commissioner Tucker and others have mentioned?
So in my bill, there is language that says that this system would not be used for surveillance or in invading privacy, that this specifically was to address the issue of the drag racing and reckless driving. So if it's something outside of that purview, if the camera caught something else, if you were trying again to surveil someone, you'd have to enter their information manually into the system, which automatically flags.
I understood that. I guess what I'm saying is if we feel like there's a problem with police officers targeting black and brown people in Nashville, right? You have a broken taillight, I'm going to pull you over and then, rouse you and see what you have in the car and do some other things and, escalate from there. Is there a way to use the license plate readers to restrict all the other things? If we have license plate readers in this neighborhood or in this area, then unless somebody is violating the predetermined thresholds for the LPR, then the police don't have the flexibility to just pull somebody over. That's really my question. Can you use it to solve the driving while black problem? And if so, I might be for it, but otherwise it seems a little invasive, and I share everyone else's concerns.
Okay. That is the first time that I have heard that question, and I am not sure if it could do that. I would have to ask some more questions. Not of you, but of others, like police and also the companies creating the systems. But duly noted. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Somebody else who was trying to say something at a minute ago? Did everybody get a chance to ask questions, make comments? Anyone? Well, if not, I'm sorry?
I was just saying, Derek Smith hasn't said anything, so just in case.
Oh, he's our attorney.
Okay.
Yeah, he only talks to us when we screw up. So,
Okay.
so anyway, well, I guess if there's no one else, thank you very much, Councilwoman. We appreciate your time and answering every question, and we hope all the comments and that were made. I hope you take them in the spirit in which they were in.
I most certainly shall. Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you, commissioners. It has been a pleasure being here. I know so many of you outside, but today I got to meet some new people, so I appreciate it. Ben Tron, I might pick your brain some more. I mean, you were just a little computer of a variety of things.
Anytime. I'm here. Anytime.
You all happy New Year and have a great night. And
Okay,
please, if you
thank
have
you very
questions, let
much.
me know.
Yes. If we have others,
Bye-bye.
we'll get them to you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you. Let's see. I see we've got 10 minutes left to get through all the rest of the agenda. Old business. I guess just conversations, the community book reading. Is that Mel or is Barbara going to come in on that?
Well, I did just want to give a quick update on it to say that we have some media partners. I know the Scene and the Tennessean are going to be promoting the series, and we are, as far as I know, we're all set for the launch on MLK Day. And we have gotten some assistance from an actual expert on promotion. So I will definitely be sending you all some advance copy of that so you can help promote as well. I just wanted to let you know that we're on track.
Okay, thank you. Lynn's policy advocacy.
Yeah, I know that our last meeting, there was a lot of support for our continuing with advocating the use of an equity lens in the performance management system and in budgeting, and doing some broader education, particularly to council. And I did want to let you know that Commissioner Venick and I both participate in the steering committee of A Voice for the Reduction of Poverty. And advocates in that group are also very interested in the promotion of an equity lens. So other community partners who are going to be dedicating some time and effort to this. I've also been asked by Stand Up Nashville to do some education and training for their folks so they can also support the advocacy for use of an equity lens.
If I may, this is Commissioner Bennett. I would like to encourage the commission to consider sending a letter to the mayor's office, encouraging the mayor to adopt and apply equity lens concepts as he prepares the upcoming budget for fiscal year 21-22. Similar to what has been used by the transportation task force, which has applied equity lens concepts in preparing its plan. We may not agree with the plan, but I think the underlying concepts that were applied are similar to what we would like to see happen in the Metro budget. And second to that, I would encourage the commission to figure out some way that we could partner or bring some of our council people up to snuff on what they can do from an equity lens perspective as they consider the mayor's budget next May.
And can I add that I think that it might also be important for for you all to express the importance of the use of an equity lens to the finance department as they're now interviewing potential chief equity, diversity, and inclusion officers. They're right in the middle of that interview and hiring process. So I think it would be really great for them to ask applicants. I mean, because this is a common tool that's now being used and promoted by national equity organizations. So any chief equity, diversity, and inclusion officer that this city hires should come with some familiarity.
Okay. Thank you. The inclusive health benefits for Metro employees.
Well, can we end this by, let's close out this other one first. So,
Sorry.
yeah, so I'm happy to draft these letters. If I don't necessarily know that we want to wait for approval for any specific language for the next meeting. So perhaps you all could deputize someone or the chair, for instance, to sign on behalf of the commission. Now that I understand what language generally you want to impart.
I think the chair should be able to sign off for all of us.
Great.
I'm willing to do that if you want.
Are there any concerns or objections to proceeding that way? Great. All right. Marissa and I will follow up on that.
Thank you. Okay. Next is the inclusive health benefits. We've only got about 2 minutes left.
So, Chair Richmond, if you wouldn't mind just giving a really brief background and your suggestion on our continuing to press that policy point as well.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, a couple of Metro employees, both actually in MNPD, who happened to be transgender, came and pointed out that there were actually exclusions in terms of healthcare benefits for trans employees. And about 40 cities and about 10 states have eliminated those exclusions, and it was recommended that Nashville end those exclusions and have full healthcare benefits for all trans employees. This has to go through the benefits board, which apparently voted against expanding the benefits in 2016. Bill and I met with the HR department. They are supportive of eliminating the exclusions. There was going to be an ad hoc committee to make a recommendation to the benefits board, but I haven't heard anything about where that stands. I'll also mention that I served on a separate ad hoc committee under the mayor's office on the status of women, and that was actually one of the recommendations that came out of that committee. And the idea was to actually have it in place by July 1st of this year. And so we, just was following up. I keep getting asked about it from time to time. And so I was asking, where that stands. I don't want it to fall through the cracks. And again, there's, and HR reported that they have a number of trans employees across Metro and several departments. And so it's not just exclusive to just one department only, even though we were only approached by people from MNPD. But it's time for Nashville to end those exclusions. And of course, one of the points in the both the Municipal Equality Index from the Human Rights Campaign and in the FIFA questionnaire that was sent for the World Cup application. You look at our policies, and right now Nashville is not inclusive. So.
Well, Chair Richmond, I think that that's something else that you and I should work on together to follow up with Shannon Hall, the HR director. She was really gracious to give us time on this issue before, and like you said, quite supportive of pursuing the policy further. So we'll do some of that work before the next meeting as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
I also think that we ought to reach out to the mayor's office, because if it has to go through the benefits board, it would definitely not hurt to have the mayor's office go on record to whether or not they support this or not. And I think anything that we would try to write or put together to mention the FIFA piece and those other type issues might just get the attention that really needs to be drawn to this.
When we were we actually worked with the mayor on the Municipal Quality Index, and that was one of the big categories where we were getting a 0, and we pointed that out in the discussions that involved both members of the council, the LGBT caucus, as well as the mayor's office. So they're much aware of that. But yeah, your point about getting them to issue a statement would be a good idea. Geez, we're technically out of time, but we didn't even get to the director's report or announcements. Mel, did you have anything you wish? I know you've got things to say in the director's report, so go ahead.
Well, I think that the most pressing issues I was able to address under other agenda items. But I do want to say I will follow up with you all by sending out again the fines and fees, the fines and fees report, and perhaps even consider identifying a guest speaker to come talk about the findings of that report and what advocacy opportunities there are for you. So we can do that next meeting.
Okay. Any announcements? I'll just mention that I've been asked to, the Women's March is this year going to be virtual, but I will be one of the participants on January 23rd. So I actually have to pre-record it and submit it, and then they'll put them online on January 23rd, but I will be speaking as part of this year's Women's March again.
I have one announcement, and that is that on February 11th, the Community Relations Committee of the Jewish Federation and the National Jewish Social Justice Roundtable and other groups will be sponsoring a panel discussion by a group called Integrity for Now, which has mounted a legal challenge, this litigation arising from the white supremacy and Nazi hate groups that attacked Charlottesville, Virginia, a number of years ago. So just keep your eyes out for more information about that. I suspect information will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. That'll be February 11th in the evening.
This is not necessarily an announcement, but it is, can you hear me? Wait a minute. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to circle back around one quick time to the LPRs. The points that that the various commissioners brought up, really give me pause with, how we're proceeding. And I'm just wondering if it would be writing an issues brief, just something that just to get it out there. These are the concerns that we as a commission have potentially. And, and the responses that we got from Councilwoman, actually, they're very helpful, and, but just putting that out there, at least having it, accessible, that that we are exploring this, and it's not something, during the 6-month period that's going to just be ignored. What if we do get to that test, or get through that pilot phase, which she's calling it. But anyway, just something to consider.
I think that's great.
Yeah, I agree. And let me say, I can take all of your comments and some that I identified and put those in writing. I was asked by another council member, Councilwoman Gamble, to participate in one of 3 public safety community conversations that the committee, the Public Safety Committee of Council is hosting. So on January 12th at 6 o'clock, I will be a speaker for that community conversation, and I will bring all your concerns to that community conversation on your behalf as well.
Okay, thanks. Any more announcements?
I'm sorry, can I ask real quickly? Is this bill going for third reading? It's passed, Councilperson Stiles' bill has passed second reading, am I correct?
I think that's right. But I know that there's a lot of folks who want to put the brakes on it. And even if there's approval for this pilot, I think that there's enough community concern that it's going to be pretty tough to convince the community to allow LPRs to be any broader than that 6-month pilot. But I can clarify sort of where we are legislatively. Because I'll be honest, I was a little confused. Like Commissioner Tucker said, the council took this up in 2017. So where are we in her legislation? I'm not entirely clear.
What was Councilwoman Stiles' purpose of even coming to the commission? That's what I couldn't quite get a grip on.
So I think my understanding is that she was hopeful that your concerns would be satisfied by that conversation, right? Because I know I've been quoted in the press. Commissioner Tucker, you were quoted in the press about it. And then, there's going to be continuing conversations that some of you individually or the commission in general is going to be a part of, or that I'm going to be a part of. So I think she wanted to satisfy concerns with this conversation, if not to get the support of the commission, but to get to sort of tamp down some of to satisfy the concerns, to ensure that your concerns are being addressed.
Like she thought if she gave us enough information, we would, like you said, Mel, would feel better about it. But I don't think really much has been taken care of in that area, which I think Commissioner Rodriguez's suggestion would be we could bullet point out what we want out of this. We don't want it, first of all, but if we want it, there has to be looking at that data to see who they're pulling over and how often, all the things that we mentioned, all things that, but yeah, I think she thought if we knew more about it, we would feel better, but that's not the case.
I agree with you that I am confident that was her intention.
Okay. Excuse me. Any other announcements? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
make the motion that we adjourn this meeting.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
We refuse
adjourn.
to roll call it.
You.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I guess we'll see each other in February. And we'll have a new president.
Thank you, everyone.
Happy New Year.